All right. This ain't just a show. This is a platform. Veteran built, battle tested. Welcome to the Misfit Nation. Yeah! In a room, built from boots on the ground, now we breaking the rules. 2 vets, 1 leader, painting the sound, turn scars into sermons, let them echo around. Artists with truth, musicians with fire, actors backstage chasing something higher. Entrepreneurs bleeding just to get ahead. If you fought for your dream, yeah, you are what you said. If they told you no, if you still came back, if you fell to your knees but you stayed on track, this is your voice, this is your flame. Say it loud, remember the name. No salvation, just elevation. We rise again. From the fight to the end. We are the Misfit Nation. No damn labels, no damn cages. If you're still breathing, you belong. Turn it up. This is our song. Yeah. This is our song. Yeah. Veterans standing with ghosts in the chest. First responders running in while the world second guess. Gold star names carved deep in the soul. Your story ain't over, we carry the whole. Coaches teaching mindset, breaking the chains, turning barely alive into owning the pain. Truth over polish, scars on display. If it's real, let it bleed. That's the misfit play. If it's heavy right now, in the dark feels close. If it's heavy right now, in the dark feels close. If it's heavy right now, in the dark feels close. It's Aubrey right now. We're the more than you know. 9888, don't walk alone. Veterans press 1, bring it home. Don't trade forever for tonight. You're still needed in this fight. We are the Misfit Nation, built from scars and dedication. We rise again. From the fight to the end. We are the Misfit Nation. Every voice is vindication. From the silence to the scream, we're strong. Welcome home, you belong. You belong. You belong. Oh wait, you. Oh wait, you belong.
Misfit Nation, are you ready? It's Tuesday, Crüe's first show of August, and we're coming in hot. Summer isn't slowing down. The energy is climbing. The mics are hot. And tonight, we're ready to rock your socks off. Now, before we get started, has anyone seen Cousin Eddie? Well, he's off on vacation somewhere. Hopefully he remembered the sunscreen and maybe this time left the RV at home. But while Cousin Eddie is out making questionable vacation decisions, the toosDay crew is here to bring the party. Tonight, we're bringing the laughs. We're bringing the stories. We're bringing the heart. And we're bringing the energy that reminds us why Tuesday nights are where the Misfit Nation comes together. Whether you're watching from your couch, your back porch, your truck, your station, your deployment, or your favorite vacation spot, welcome home. Because this community isn't built on where we are, it's built on who we are. So crank up the volume, jump into the chat, hit that share button, and let's make the first Crüe of August one to remember. Misfit Nation, make some noise for the voices of grit, resilience, brotherhood, and a whole lot of night madness. The toosDay crew.
We're back. We're bad. Good evening.
And we're bald.
I'm bald. Yes, I am.
Hey, I'm getting there, brother. I am getting there.
Thank you, Pitbull Gold, for that.
Oh, hope you're having a good day, Stephen.
Yeah, I'm good. And maybe tonight I'll sleep for the first time in a while. I got a new mattress, nice and firm. It's so high up, my feet don't touch the ground.
Nice.
I might have to get a
Nice.
step ladder to get in the bed later.
All right. All right. I can handle that. I can handle
Yeah.
that. Oh, not much going on this end. Took Mrs. Holland in to get her week and a half check, or no, her week checkout for her shoulder surgery that she had. Doc says she's doing great.
Anything's better than what happened with the knee, so that's good.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Anything is better than that. Yeah, don't break your hip getting out of bed.
Yeah, I get it. I'm an old man.
Well, hey, it's been a great week. We had a great show on Thursday, and we're looking to have a great show tonight. So,
Let's get this thing rolling. Let's
all right.
talk about this. What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Tuesday Crew, the show where we bring you the stories behind the headlines. Oh, sorry. I'm out there somewhere tonight. The legends behind the legacy, conversations you won't hear anywhere else.
And tonight we've got an absolute powerhouse joining us. If you've ever been fascinated by true crime, unsolved mysteries, or investigations behind some of America's most infamous murder cases, buckle up, because this one is going to be incredible.
Our guest is a New York Times and Los Angeles Times best-selling author, an award-winning investigative journalist, and one of the most respected voices in true crime. Her groundbreaking books, Killing of Tupac Shakur and The Murder of Biggie Smalls, helped shape the conversation around two of the most talked about cases in music history.
But that's just the beginning. She's also written about Robert Durst, Susan Berman, and organized crime and legendary crime writer Ann Rule. Her reporting has appeared in the New York Times, Reuters, and Los Angeles Times, and you've seen her expertise featured on CNN, Dateline NBC, A&E, and many more.
Tonight, we're going behind the investigations, behind the books, and behind the headlines. We'll talk about what it's really like to chase the truth, separate facts from fiction, uncover stories, and have captivated the world.
So whether you're a lifelong true crime fan, a journalism junkie, or just love hearing incredible stories from someone who's lived them, you're in exactly the right place.
Do us a favor before we get started, though. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, jump into the live chat. We're in the live chat on YouTube, so go over there. We see everything. We'll talk to you. We want to hear your questions because we know we're going to ask some of them live. I'm sorry.
All right, crew, let's make some noise and give a huge Tuesday Crew welcome to best-selling author, investigative journalist, and true crime icon,
Cathy Scott. Good evening, Cathy.
So nice intro. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for being here. We didn't have long in the green room. I'm Jake. The bald guy is Steven. And
Good to meet you guys.
And we're happy to have you here. Now, we gave about 5 cents worth of your bio. So why don't you just take some time here and fill the Misfit Nation in on the other 95 cents of it. Just starting wherever you want. So what brought us up to today?
Well, I was a reporter. I was a journalist and fell in love with covering crime. When I went to my first crime beat was at a teeny tiny newspaper called the Mission Beach Press. It was my first newspaper. And I saw standing in the median of a boulevard watching a DA bust, drug bust with the DEA and FBI, and got hooked on crime, and I've been covering it ever since. So, but I never intended to be an author. I love being a journalist. I love writing stories and covering stories from beginning to end. And then Tupac Shakur died on my watch when I was a reporter at the Las Vegas Sun, and the cops weren't solving it when it was very easy to solve. They were hoping it would just go away, and it didn't. And so that became my first book, and I wrote it. That's why I wrote it, was to tell the story for other people, because the cops were just ignoring it and kind of just hoping it would go away. But all these reporters were calling off the hook. And then one book, and then Biggie Smalls died 6 months later, and that became my second book. Ted Binion, there was a murder case. He wasn't murdered, but there was a murder trial, two of them, and his dad ran, and he inherited part of it, the Horseshoe Casino in downtown. You know, one of the, I think it was the first non-sawdust casino in downtown Las Vegas. And so Ted Binion, I went through both trials, and I ended up doing a book about that, and just one book. And Susan Berman, you know, that's one of my favorite stories, and it was a privilege really to cover Susan's case and give her a voice and give her crime justice, because that's another one. It took years and years, you know, 15, 20 years for them to actually convict Robert Durst of the murder, and everybody knew who did it. And so that that was really one of my prouder moments on that book. I'm very proud of that book, and to give her a voice. It was such a sad thing. Robert Durst, you know, his dad built the Twin Towers in downtown New York, and she was a journalist, went to school in San Francisco, and became a writer herself, and wrote about the mob, and kind of a poor little rich girl story. And then she ends up getting dead herself, and just then at the LAPD just sat on that story. She lived in Los Angeles, and they just sat. Well, my understanding was Robert Durst's father, who was alive at the time, picked up the phone and called the district attorney. Nothing to see here. And Robert Durst, they didn't. All the evidence pointed to him, but it took him all those years to get it done. It was a new DA in LA who really pursued it and got it done, and so it was quite a trial, and televised. And then just all the, you know, and of course the mafia. Fat Herbie Blitzstein, I was at his murder scene, and he was the last of the mobsters in Las Vegas, actually, and he was Spilatro's right-hand man, straight out of the movie Casino, you know, and he's a character in it. And he got killed. I was at his crime scene, and I went to part of the trial. There was a trial, but no one was ever charged with murder. They just got him for racketeering and money issues and stuff. But his trial, the reason the Fat Herbie Blitzstein's case is big is the investigation into the killers took down the Buffalo mob, and it took down the Los Angeles mob. His trial in that case, and the LAPD and the FBI are to be commended for it, but that took down the Buffalo, their presence in Los Angeles, and also the you know, they called him the Mickey Mouse Mafia. That was a nickname. FBI loves to give nicknames to all the bad guys, and that was their nickname for it. And it took down the Mickey Mouse Mafia, the Los Angeles mob. His case did, so that was a good thing. That's going to be one of my upcoming books.
Oh, okay.
Story for years, so that'll be a book as well. So Fat Herbie, I interviewed all kinds of people while I was still in Las Vegas. I covered that case like crazy, and one point I was going to turn it into a book, then another book came along, and time is ripe for it, so I'm going to do it. Probably doing Murders on the Beach right now. That's what I'm working on. 3 murder cases on the on the sand in Torrey Pines Beach and Del Mar, Southern
Okay.
California, my town. I lived at the beach for years, and I was just there with the siblings of one of the victims and walked the beach. And first time they were able to pinpoint where the body was found. And so that's my next. I'm not going to give away too much on that, but that's my next book, Murders on the Beach at Torrey Pines.
All right. Well,
When you're going through your stories and you're investigating and you're pushing, you're saying the cops weren't doing anything about this, law enforcement wasn't doing that. How much flack did you get from law enforcement for constantly pushing and
Oh,
pushing and pushing?
I kind of ignore them,
You
but
just ignore them?
well, I'm not easily. Once I cover something, I cover it, and
Okay.
oh my God, the Metro Police in Las Vegas, good God, they tried to get me fired. I'm like, come on down.
Well, yeah, that's why I was asking. So I figured there would be pushback. You're not doing your job, and you're like, well, yeah, let's get to work here. This is what I've seen, And
Yeah,
I figured there'd be pushback on you.
yeah, and I've worked with some really really cool cops, some really good detectives, and that sort of thing. And so but you don't. I mean, you're interviewing them. You get to know them. As a police reporter, you get to know them really well, and you can't take a cup of coffee from them. You can't let anybody buy you dinner. Because you have to be true blue to the to the paper and to your job. I still do the same thing. I operate like I'm working for a newspaper, but I still freelance some, but I write books now. But it's the same thing. I interview a ton of people, and I try to get both sides of the story and let the reader decide. I decide as well, but when I see something, I don't gloss over it. The police I'm in a cafe, so it's a little noisy in here, but the police at times have tried to steer me in another direction, and I go in wherever the story leads me, wherever the evidence and all of that lead me to is how I tell the story, just from beginning to end. And it's some touch me deeper than others, but I'm working on Murders on the Beach. This is my 13th book. The story of Anne Rule, of course, First Lady of Murder, that book is just out. And I got to know Anne really well before she died. And then one of her attorneys contacted me to write a story about her because she'd sued a newspaper, and they felt that the media in Seattle was covering the newspaper side and not covering Anne's side. And I said, well, let me take a look at it, because I don't write on cue, I am a journalist by trade. So, but there was a story there, so I wrote about her and the lawsuit, and we became friends. And then after that came out, all these authors, a lot of men came out of the woodwork saying, you're not going to believe what Anne Rule did to me. You're not going to believe what happened. And one, I think, had a book deal killed, and another had a really good gig with Crime Library, got fired because she called the editor. So she didn't always get along with. I got along with her great. I know that people had really, really good relationships with her, but she was also very, not getting along necessarily. She was very possessive of the stories she wrote about, and she didn't always like it when another author wanted to write about the same subject she'd written about. I wrote the Tupac. I was first out the gate with Tupac, but I didn't even pay attention to who came out with books. There were lots of books that came out afterward. Probably 20 books have been written about Tupac. And
yeah.
I don't consider it competition, really. It's not like newspapers, you got to be first with the story, you're breaking news. I mean, I broke news a lot, and I've broken lots of news in my books, but I don't worry about the peripheral, and I do try to get a book out. I am the first out with the Anne Rule biography, and I'm quite proud of it. And just ignore any typos; they'll get fixed in the second printing. But that happens, unfortunately. You get on deadline, and but it's such a good story. And she, everybody has their faults and their good points, and I wouldn't be here today without Ann Rule. She paved the way for women. She was, Jack Olson was really the first true crime author, and he and Ann, they both lived in the Seattle area, and they hated each other's guts, but and they didn't end up at Mystery Writers of America conferences together and never speak, but they were so competitive. But she paved the way for the rest of us, and she came up with a different style, and her first book, The Stranger Beside Me, was not a bestseller. It was a bestseller, but not out the gate, not first. It would be her fifth, Diane Downs, horrible story, and Anne covered it well. Of three children, and Diane Downs, her new boyfriend, didn't like kids, so she tried to kill all three of her children. She succeeded in killing one, maimed another, and then the other had a terrible head injury. And that was Anne's, I think, fifth or sixth book. That became an instant bestseller, and then all the rest of her books. But people didn't pick up that book right away, which I find interesting, because it became what she was most famous for. And and yet it wasn't her first bestseller. And it has sold, last count, 33 million copies. And that was about a year ago, so I'll have to look up the numbers again, but it's been quite successful, and it made her career. So she was just one book after another, and she ended up writing 37 books, 35 of which were New York Times bestsellers. And I don't know that anybody can follow that, and it's quite a record. And I think she was at the right place at the right time, and she had one thing she was criticized early on about was not focusing as much on the women. She was focusing, because Ted Bundy kind of started that, she was focusing more on the killer and the killer in each book. So once she was criticized for that, she started changing, emphasizing more on the women, and she took off. That's really the Diane Downs case, and here Diane Downs was the killer. Anne's focus in that book, and I think partly why it became a bestseller, were the victims, were the children, and so that really is where she made her name. And after that, it was just every book was a bestseller, regardless of how good or bad it was, I think, in some cases. But she kind of was a cookie cutter writer, but she was, she had a pattern to each one, but it worked, and good on her, and she, in getting to know her, she actually had a sad side to her too, and she was isolated self-isolated on Puget Sound. And I went to her house. I was in not when she was alive, but a Paris film crew was doing a documentary on her and flew me to Seattle. And they rented her triplex overlooking the Sound with her 95-foot bank and a tram that took her down, an 85-foot tram that took her down to her property below. No neighbors beside her, and just beautiful property. But I spent 10 hours in her house and on her property, and came back I was in the middle of writing her book, probably a quarter of the way through her biography, and I walked away from that with a whole different perspective about her. And I think that's what has made the book better, is because I was in her space, and she loved it there. She was there about 20 years. So
awesome.
Yeah, Isn't that cool? That's
Yeah, that's.
luck of the
I
draw.
don't think I could. I don't think I could live that isolated like that. But yeah, that sounds like a real neat. I'm gonna have to check out that documentary and have a look at her
Yeah, it's a
place.
cool documentary. Read my book. You'll get a feel for it. But the
Well,
documentary,
hey,
it's called Ted and Ann. Ted and Ann,
okay,
and it's out of Paris. Go, Go, Go Films. 3Go. Art, ARTE Films. If you look up Fred, he's one of the producers, and Julian, Julien. Go, Go, Go Films, Ann and Ted. You'll find it. You can. It's in English.
okay,
I think I might have I might be able to send it to you, but it's well worth the watch.
all right.
A whole
Hey,
different side, yeah. But I immerse myself in stories, no matter who it is, and I don't go looking for true crime stories; they just fall on my lap. Um, and Susan Berman was a no-brainer because I was, I've been to Fifth Street School where she went to elementary school, and I still in elementary school, but I've been to her house. Went to San Francisco where she lived, where she went to school. I interviewed her, her master's thesis professor, and for Anne, the Anne Rule book, I interviewed 250 people. For the other books, I'm always close to 200, 150, 100. And then the documents, I pour over documents, and I just try to get to the true, and then interview a boatload, but try to get to the real the true, who the person really was, and how they came to be, and how their career and the writing and how they got dead, is their murder books, but that's always a big part of it too. And so I was a crime reporter, so writing true crime books was a natural step for me.
all right.
That was the question I was going to ask you, because we have a question coming up, and I'm going to post it in a second. But you mentioned like about Tupac. There's like 5 different books out after he died. Making yours better is because you're the investigative reporter. Did they do the same thing you did when they wrote their books, or did they just take what was in the headlines and piece things together, and did they write their books that way? Did they go that step beyond like you did, the other 4 people writing? Is that what makes your book the difference, or?
Well, I leave no stone unturned, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't go toward one side. I don't know as I'm entering into it, who I'm like Anne. I learned a lot about who she was, and I learned some things that were kind of negative, and I was told by one person, "You're not going to include that in the book, are you?" Well, I had everything. I had it documented. I had 5 sources on a couple of things, 2 and 3 sources on others. And on this one, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but on this one particular thing, you can read about it. I was really asked not to include it, and that it would hurt her reputation. Well, she's no longer here. But it's not my responsibility to make someone look good. I mean, by the way, I injured myself quite. I keep moving my hand because I got my finger stuck in a chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
I did that
Maybe
with
you
my
can have
knee
it up in
once.
have it up in the air like this so it throbs less.
Yeah, so it's just covered up. I go to the doctor again tomorrow, but I'm going to have plastic surgery on it. So it's a little deformed right now. So we're going to try to get it back together. But only happened a couple of weeks ago. But so I'm still in a bandage. Anyway,
Stop playing with chainsaws.
Yeah, I think when you run, no, I'm going to use it again because I live in the mountains and I chop down limbs and stuff. So I'm going to keep doing it. Just not my hand or my finger again. But
Right.
I got, when I learned things about her, I thought, how can I? That's who she was. It was a big deal, and how can I not include it? And same with Tupac. I came across some things. I interviewed his mother, and and I included an autopsy photo in it, and there were rumors that he had faked his own death and all of that. So that's the reason the publisher and I decided to keep the photo in. I notified his mother, who was still living at the time, Cathy Scott, that there would be something in the book that would be that might disturb her and to prepare her. She wasn't about after his death. She was all about keeping his music alive, keeping his writing, his poetry, his essence alive. And in Valletta Wallace with Biggie Smalls, she was about solving his crime and bringing someone to justice. That was what she was all about. So it's interesting the differences, and they both live on, you know. And so I don't. You know, once you learn something about someone, you can't omit it from, and you've got it confirmed. You can't omit it just because it's a little distasteful and might not make them look good. What Anne had what were called Anvil fans. She called them that. They called themselves that, the ARFs, Anvil fans, and they actually like my book for the majority. That's what I'm hearing, and I made her more human to them because she was just like them. Nobody's perfect, and as my mother used to say, nobody are perfect. But so I think actually it's the true story and the complete story of Anne Rule, and so I think people appreciate it. And then having read her books, they can go back and see certain things and go, okay, that's when that happened and that sort of thing. So I think I did good by her, and I got to know her. I liked her, and we were friends. And but when you learn certain things, you can't ignore them and push them under the rug just because you're friends with someone. And so I wrote the definitive book on who she really was, and it's been well received, and I'm real happy about that.
Good deal. Stephen, you said we had a question?
Yes, we do. First question of the night. Jeremiah wants to know, you said the Tupac case was easy and the police did not work it correctly. What discoveries did you make that
Well,
may not have heard that we may not have heard in mainstream?
and when I say easy, it was an easy case to solve. You have one thing happen and another thing happens, and then there's retribution and stuff like. Tupac was not killed by the Crips. He wasn't killed by the Bloods. He was killed by a Crips member, but not because of anything that happened earlier, but because of something that happened that night. So Tupac went to the Grand. He's appearing that night. Everybody knew. There were flyers all over town. It was all over the black stations that Tupac was performing, and all the music stations that Tupac was performing down at Club 662 on Flamingo, right off the strip, about 2 miles down. And he after the fight, Mike Tyson, what was it, 109 seconds? The Bruce Seldon, Mike Tyson fight. So he was all jacked up. Probably he smoked a lot of weed, Tupac did. So he and Suge Knight head out to go to Club 662, and they go down the strip. And Tupac's getting up out of the sunroof and everything. In the meantime, while they were coming before that, while they were coming out of the MGM Grand, they see a homie with them said, "Hey, that's Lando from Compton, and he's the one who stole my shoes from whatever Foot Locker or something." That's what it was. And so they just start beating up on him. He's standing waiting for his homies to come out of the fight because he didn't have a ticket. So he's just standing against the elevator bank, and they see him and they just start pounding on him, beat him up, kick him and stuff. And then Orlando was fine, beat up, bruised, and he talked to an officer afterward. I think one police officer, the rest was security at the MGM Grand. And then Tupac, they take off on their own. Orlando and his uncle and two other guys in the car head out looking for Tupac and Suge to pay them back. They're going up and down, going down the strip, going up. So finally, they go down the strip and they see Tupac headed down Flamingo, headed to the Club 662. And at a stoplight, brown arm comes out of the car and goes rat-a-tat-tat and kills him. Tupac and Suge had gone back to Suge's house to change their clothes. In the meantime, Keefe D, who's now up for trial and beginning on the 10th in just a few days in Las Vegas as an accessory to the murder of Tupac, because he bought the gun, a Glock, out of Las Vegas. So they went hunting to buy a gun, and then hunting to look to see where they knew he was going to Club 662, and they just went up and down the roads till they found him, and came across him at a stoplight and killed him. That is just street justice. You did this to me, I did that to you, and there's nothing else involved in that. That's all it was.
Okay.
Later. Hope that answers his question.
I hope so too. I have another one for you. Yeah, Jake, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Ask the question. I was going to cue you up for that. That's what I was doing.
For the brother HUD wants to know, out of every case you've investigated, which one still haunts you the most, and why hasn't it left you? Thank you for that question.
Well, they all, gosh, when I look at all the stories, Millionaire's Wife was a story out of New York City, and that was a woman who had a guy she got to know talked her into killing her husband. She was like in her 50s, and they were in Puerto Rico, moved to New York City, and she got caught up in it, and that was that was Kogan, his last name was, and he got murdered because somebody talked his wife into having it done, but I think the one that I'm trying to think what else, the one that really haunts me is Susan Berman. Out of the case I already talked about, she was Davy Berman's daughter, and Davy Berman was a mobster, worked for that part of the mob came before Spilatro. Spilatro followed them. Those were really the true mobsters in Las Vegas back in those days. Davy Berman, and he came out of Cincinnati and helped run. What they do is they run the grift off of the casino gets this much money, the mob gets this much money. They count the money in the money room. All that stuff's true. It used to happen. But I think Susan, her dad she was 12 years old when her dad was murdered. And he used to worry about the mob hitting him because the opposite, the mobsters who didn't get along with each other, and he had a bedroom window raised so nobody could shoot into her bedroom. And they lived in downtown Las Vegas. I went inside that house too. And she was 12 years old when her dad died in surgery during gallbladder surgery. I still kind of question that a little bit. And the year before that, her mother had died. Her mother was depressed and not really present. She went into some rest home type thing, and she was very young, very pretty, into a home in LA. So Susan, for that year, was with her dad and all the mobsters. She loved all the guys. They'd take her to the casino, and she'd help them count money in the counting room. And then Davy died a year later while in surgery, and she ended up moving in with her uncle, who was just a side mobster, not a big deal, in Oregon. And she just was sad, went to UCSD or UC, where'd she go? San Francisco, she went to college, and then ended up writing a book about her childhood, and um, and became best friends at UCLA. And then she went to UCLA for graduate school and met Robert Durst. And Robert Durst, they became best friends. And 20 years later, he kills her, and or not 20 years later, he kills her. Not. I'm trying to think how many years it was, but it was like 20 years later he gets convicted. But he ends up killing his best friend, and she adored him. And he was always a little off, and her friends didn't like him. Then she moved to New York City, wrote for New York Magazine, and wrote a few books, and then moved to. She got a lot of money when her dad died, and her uncle would give it to her every year. She'd get a certain amount of money, and then when he died, she got the whole bunch of it. And Susan just went through it. She ended up renting a house, and was on the verge of being kicked out, evicted when she died. Her house was so sad. There was just the furniture was all broken down, and her life was kind of a mess. And she and then Robert Durst is supposed to visit her. He's going to bring her $25,000, take her to San Francisco, and he comes to her house. She's walking in the bedroom to go get her dogs out of her room, and he shoots her in the back of the head. Yeah. So but she had been asking him questions because Robert Durst killed his wife, and she always supported him. She lied to him, to the police, where he was at the time of the death. And she just was there for him in ways people shouldn't be, And then he ends up killing her because they were taking a look at the case again of his wife, and Susan knew too much, and he killed her. Little did he know she was never going to narc on him. She was so true blue to him. So it's just her whole life to me was just so sad, and she had the world at her fingertips, and she didn't know how to do it right, and she lost her parents at 12, and I think she was stuck at 12 years old, never really matured emotionally. She was kind of stuck there, and I think that's the saddest story. And they're all sad, but that was, to me, the one that stuck with me the most.
Yeah, that is definitely a bad one, to be that loyal to somebody and then they pop you in the back of the head. That is not a good one. Now, how do you pick your stories? I mean, do you get suggestions? Like, do fans write in and say, "Hey, we got an unsolved murder in town X," or whatever? Or do you scour the newspapers for them? Or how do you pick what you're going to write about?
Some writers I know search for stories. I don't. I pretty keep up on stuff, but I don't search for them. Tupac, I was woken up at about, a homicide cop woke me up, called me. It's nice to have good relationships, they have your numbers, you have their numbers, you can contact each other. Woke me up at about 12:30, and about thereabouts 12:45, and said, get down to the Strip, Las Vegas Strip. There's a rapper by the name of Tupac Shakur. He couldn't even pronounce his name, Tupac Shakur. And so I went to the scene, and there was still forensics people around at the time. The crowd was still there, and that became my first book. And so I covered it from literally the beginning. And then Biggie died, and that became the next one. Susan was, I almost met her. There was a party, and she was going to it in Las Vegas, and to do with the mob. And I didn't go, and otherwise I would have met her. But Susan's story, when she was killed, I remember where I was. I was on a bicycle trip, and I was out of town, and I read the first newspaper story, and I of course knew who she was, and it just didn't. It sounded like there was much more to the story than what was being told, and that's when I decided to look at it and pursue it. And then, I mean, each case it's. I don't go through newspapers. A lot of them came from my reporting, like the Blitzstein. I was at his murder scene. I covered that as a reporter. There's a serial killer, Craig. What is Craig's last name? Sorry, I'm tired. So Craig is in Arizona in prison, and he killed a girl and in Las Vegas for no reason, and I was on that. I reported on that story, and that's good. And I've interviewed everybody and their brother on that, and that'll be one of my upcoming books as well. Torrey Pines was a neighbor, former neighbor, and I lived in South Mission Beach in San Diego for years. That's where I raised my son. We lived there for 19 years. And I was in Vegas and wasn't following all the news, and I was working in Vegas, not following all the news stories. And a neighbor said, "Hey, you need to pursue this, the Torrey Pines murders. You need to look into this. Something's off," and that's what I did, and that became. So I get them, but I don't go. I don't go. People send me tips all the time, and I'll look into them, but I don't keep a file of stories. I don't hunt through newspapers looking for my next murder. It comes to me in different ways. I have three books. I'm on a 4-book deal. I'm working on the second one right now. So Fat Herbie's going to be in one of them, and then the serial killer out of Las Vegas is going to be one of them too. He killed in Arizona as well. Craig Jacobson, and that's going to be. He went by a couple of different names, so that'll be a book too.
Cool.
Now,
I have a couple of questions coming in, Jake. I'm sorry, I keep stuff.
oh no, I just. His name is Craig Leslie Jacobson. Now, you ever know all serial killers have 3 names?
You're kind of Wayne. What is his name? Yeah, you know.
John Wayne Gacy.
Yes, right. I went to Jacobson's. It's what's called it's just a store where you go and you buy how to change your identity. That's where the victim went and to change her to fix her credit. So you fix her credit, all kinds of books. So after she was killed, I went to his store, and I also talked to him on the phone twice. I interviewed him, but I went to his store and I got the creepiest feeling. And she never left that store, and that's where her husband was sitting. And the reason I wrote that book, it just occurred to me, her husband, Ginger Rios was the girl. So her husband was married to. Her husband worked at the Las Vegas Sun downstairs for the online group. The online group had just started. And one of the photographers came up and said, "Hey, I was talking to one of our new employees down there, and he was married to Ginger Rios. She was a salsa dancer in town. Really nice family. I got to know them. And you've got to talk to him about how this crime went down and what happened." So he was a real shy guy and the saddest person on earth. And so I went down on my break and talked to him, because I was a reporter at the Las Vegas Sun up in the newsroom upstairs. And I went down and then I interviewed her family, and that became one of my books. And so Craig Jacobson is a murderer, and I interviewed him. So that's one of the books that's upcoming. And what I try to do is write more about the victims as well, And
Yeah.
And just quite the books I've written probably 3/4 of it. Just found a publisher in Wild Blue Press, and they gave me a 4-book deal, and that book is one of them. So.
All right. Now, Stephen, you said we got some more questions popped up.
Yes, Jessica Spencer, 5526. Her question is there a case that sticks out that was the most bizarre? Jessica, thank you for that question.
God, I've got to been to so many homicide scenes, I can't even count them. The most bizarre. I mean, there were a lot of crimes in Las Vegas where I covered in San Diego too, but a lot of domestic violence. A lot of women get killed during domestic violence, and I am the victim of domestic violence. God bless my late ex-husband, but I'm the survivor of it, and so I would make a point because I understand why women stay. I understand why they leave because I lived it, and so I always made a point of going to domestic violence cases, and there were some that were just they're so horrid. But I think the most bizarre is probably Craig Jacobson. I mean, Tony's or Binion wasn't bizarre. It was bizarre in the way they tried to say he was murdered when he wasn't. He overdosed. That was bizarre, but not bizarre in kind of the criminal type, But Jacobson having a spy shop and a girl walks in and never comes out, and then they find the bodies buried in beehive cave graves in Mojave Desert. I went to the grave sites with detectives. So and that one covered two cases because there was a case in Arizona as well. So it covered two states. And they said he might have killed in California, but they never could get him because Jacobson lived in California for a little while too. So bizarre, I think that probably tops it. I mean, I think I've seen everything, but that pretty much tops it.
Okay.
Okay. And
we got another one coming in.
Yep.
Miss Yellow wants to know, what's the biggest myth TV shows and movies get wrong about investigative journalism and solving real crimes?
Yeah, I don't watch those shows. I'm on the shows a lot. I get on Investigation Discovery and those crime shows and stuff. I don't watch them. They're sensationalized a little bit. So I think I think crimes speak for themselves. I don't need to make them better or worse or whatever. They're sometimes so bizarre. You couldn't make up the true crime stories, the real ones. And I think sometimes they get a little sensational. I've been a talking head on them, so I'm not going to criticize the people who are talking heads, but they do. They try to kind of glamorize. I don't know if you can glamorize crime, but that's why I try to focus on the victims and not the killers, because I think on a lot of the shows the killers are ones who get the headlines. And Ann Rule learned that the hard way. I learned it just being. Mine was because I sided toward the women because I was a victim myself. Thank goodness I wasn't killed, but I understood. And so I think probably Craig Jacobson. He's about as bizarre as you could get. He's sitting in Arizona in a prison right now. That guy is alive. He wanted me to. They can make phone calls, and he's got email, and I got email from him and asking me a couple of years ago to contact him. He wanted to talk to me, and I'm like, I have no reason. I interviewed him at the time. I have no reason to talk to him now, so I'm just letting sleepy dogs lie. But
yes.
Yeah, I mean, bizarre is one word, but the cases are also sad. And the homicide cases I used to go to a lot there, it's just sad. I mean, I remember one where a grandmother was killed by a son, and the grandson coming up, he was probably 17, coming up and realizing, and I was just right there, realizing what had happened and just fell to his knees. There was one, and I'm just crying, it was just so sad. And there was one where a guy in a trailer was supposed to testify the next day, and out and way out near Lake Mead. He had a trailer out of nowhere. Nobody was there, and it was on fire. I went to the scene. I remember a homicide cop standing with me, and as he rolled the body out, it was all charred, but he was covered. But his big toe, which was all charred, stuck out. And the homicide cop actually started laughing because of the toe. And he's like hitting me like this. And I don't think it was laughter out of cruelness. I think they see things so bad that to keep your sanity, you almost have to laugh about
You have
it.
to laugh, yeah.
That was a bizarre case. It was a hit for hire. I don't know. I don't remember now whether that trial continued. It must have been a continuance. But he was a star witness, and he got dead. Somebody killed him. Yeah, and so you see, only in Vegas sometimes, but you see bizarre things happen as a result of them. Craig Jacobson was the premier. The body's buried in the desert. It was just such a sad story, but he was such a crazy character too.
Yes. Durham, we got questions rolling in all over the place. Go ahead and pop the next one.
Try to keep my answer shorter.
And Dang It Jim wants to know if you could reopen one cold case, spend a year investigating any mystery in the world, which one would you choose and why?
Susan Berman's was open after 20 years. I was happy about that. I'm trying to think what cases. I think there were some girls on the Las Vegas Strip. They were strippers, and call girls. And there were like 7 burglarized and beat up, and one of them dead. And that was years ago. And I think, and it wasn't ever solved. And I didn't hear much about it afterward. And I think maybe sometimes because of who they are, the case isn't covered. Susan Berman was famous, so of course that covered that. They finally went after that. And I think in some cases that they're not pursued because of who they are. And I think the strippers who were some beat up, 1 or 2 killed. I think those are the ones that I would like to see looked at, to do justice by them too, not on who they are, just because they were people and they were killed and they deserve for their crimes to be solved.
Right. Alrighty, there's one more. Oh, there we go. At Mallory67 wants to know, which episode of ID have you been on? Because they want to make sure they didn't miss it.
God. There was a case out of North Las Vegas where a girl I think this was either Investigation Discovery or Oxygen Channel, where she killed a family member and dumped her, and then had her brother or somebody, a friend, dump the body near Mount Charleston. A lot of bodies are found in Mount Charleston. There are probably more bodies than we know in Lake Mead because it's so deep and they sink. But this one was found at the foot of Mount Charleston on one of the side roads. But you've got coyotes and animals and stuff, and eventually a body's going to turn up, and this one did, and that was bizarre because it was almost the whole family was living in this like 3-story house, and they all hated each other, and it was a family case, and murdering her own brother or having him murdered was a sad case, and that and just an unsolved one as well. So that they blamed everybody, and I don't think the results ever came out on that one. And there are bodies found in the desert between the prison heading toward North Nevada. You find bodies along the highway, the freeways. Some of those are never solved. And the bodies found in the desert. A lot of bodies are found in the desert and never. They're bodies as well. Someone once told me, a reporter in Las Vegas who was there for years, she told me there are more bodies in in mines. There's so many mines done. You could drive a truck through some of them. She said someday, if anybody who looks in those mines, someday they're going to be surprised about how many skeletons are down there, because a lot of bodies were dumped by the mob, and then just, bad guys. So I think the unsolved cases, and that, not one in particular, but yes, that one, and the girls as well. So.
Yeah, that's like the cornfields in northwestern Indiana from all the people in Chicago.
Lots of movies and books about that one.
Yes. All right, got another question. Man,
Yes, we do.
This Nation is on it tonight.
Mount Mary Ford wants to know, who's the most unforgettable person you ever interviewed, and what happened during the conversation that you'll never forget? Thanks for that question.
I'm trying to
Mount Mary
think,
Ford.
but, I'll be out of your hair in a minute. Okay. Gosh, what? I had lots of people come to me over the years, and I'd meet them at coffee houses and stuff, trying to get me to cover a case. One. Okay, the question. Retell me again, real quick.
Most unforgettable person you ever interviewed, and what happened during that conversation that you'll never forget?
Well, I covered politics for a short time too. It's probably there was a politician in Las Vegas, a county official, who kind of like the boring man. And I remember interviewing. I had to pull a story out of that and try to get the most interesting things. So it wasn't a crime story, but it was a political story, and I had to try to pull the best out of that one that I could, because, but I think, a lot of the cases, there have been so many that I've covered, but a lot of the cases, they stay with you a little bit. They, you go to these crime scenes, and I mean, Fat Herbie Blitzstein's murder, he was shot in the back of his head. Two mobsters followed him in through his garage and got him on his chair that would lean back, his recliner, and had him on his knees with his head down, and shot him in the back of his head, and he's saying, no, no, no. And the feds were sitting right outside. They had him under surveillance. And two guys go in and do this and walk out, and that was an unforgettable case, and one I'll always remember, is because it was so easy to solve, and they chose not to, and they were there when it happened, and they didn't. I hope nothing happens to me because of this, but I've written about it, but they didn't stop it. They didn't stop it. I know with regular law enforcement, I don't know about the feds, but if you see a crime taking place, you drop what you're doing and you go do it. But they didn't. They watched. They saw it go down, and they tried to kill it with the media. Tried not to talk to us and stuff. And I think that's what the police were hiding at the time. They didn't. I mean, it went all the way to the captain that they didn't want to share it. And no, we're not going to share that. We can't talk about it, and because the feds were involved. And yeah, they could have saved Fat Herbie's life, but they chose not to. Well, they might not have known that they were going to go in and kill him, but they might have recognized some of those gangsters that were walking through his door. But give them the benefit of the doubt. They might not have known that that's what was going to happen, but that is what happened.
All right.
Do you have time for any more questions, or is they going to be kicking you out? I noticed they spun the sun by
They're going to be kicking me out.
Closed. Okay.
It closed. It closed an hour ago, but they're still working.
Okay.
You guys have
okay. There's one more. There have been a bunch of bodies surface as Lake Mead dries up. Are the local PD or feds investigating?
Murder is not a federal crime. It is only a state crime. So the feds only get involved if it's with a mafia person. They don't get involved in homicides unless they're asked to, because something is related to it. So that would be the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I think the new sheriff, because people ask me why all these years later is the Tupac Shakur case finally going to trial, because there's a new sheriff in town, and he was a detective, I think. I forget what he was doing at the time when I was there before he became sheriff a couple of years ago, and at the same time, Keefe D, Orlando Anderson, the killer, Orlando Anderson's uncle, who bought the gun and is an accessory to murder, and rented the Cadillac that they shot from. He moved to Henderson, Nevada, and handed himself to the police, and so they arrested him in Henderson, so they didn't have to extradite him from LA. He moved there, and I guess nobody told him that there's no statute of limitations on homicide, you know. And so he wrote a book, and he included details about how the murder, and then they guess how they caught him. Walking his dog down his street is when they caught him. Made it easy for him. So Keefe D is, and his attorney has tried to call me a couple of times, and I don't know why the defense would want to talk to me, but I haven't. You know, I don't think I'm going to talk to him before the trial. It starts on the 10th. It's a new attorney, and he said, "Go ahead, let's go with it." So I think the cop, I think the detectives, and I think the district attorney's office have all the goods on him on the Tupac case, and they're gonna prosecute, and they're gonna have a conviction out of it, a jury trial, unless he'd be real smart to plead out ahead of time. So we'll see if on the 10th or before the 10th he pleads out. Otherwise, he's going to, and it's going to be a circus. It's going to be a circus in Las Vegas. So.
Yes, it definitely will be.
Yeah, but forgettable ones. There's some boring ones, but not really for everything's got every case has a story, you know, whether it's interesting or, you know, more interesting than the next. I always try to do justice by the victims.
Yes.
Unless they're the bad guys.
Unless they're the bad guys. Okay, one more real quick. When people finish reading one of your books, what is the one question you hope they walk away asking themselves? Thank you, Sean O. Today.
What's her next book?
Okay. All right.
There you go. That's a good
All
answer.
right. Well, hey, this hour has flown by, and we really, really appreciate you coming and sitting down with the Misfit Nation, telling what you do, and kind of explaining your process and how you go about it. And if fans want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me. I'm all over. You know, I'm online, so I'm happy. I answer emails. So if they find my phone, they can text me as well. And just don't call. Text me first. And
okay.
Email, and I do answer. Emails and text messages. So I'm happy to do that. And I'm still, you know, I still consider myself a crime beat reporter because my writing books, I still am, you know, I'm reporting on stories, only I go more like with the Anne Rule book. She actually wrote about murder. She was a murder writer, a true crime author, and I got to know her and learned a little bit about her, and that's why I wrote her book. But I think really her book. I mean, I love my first book, The Killing of Tupac Shakur. I think that's one of my best. Thank you for that. And I think the First Lady of Murder, though, is my best work yet. Just my opinion.
Okay. Well, I tell you what,
right,
I love to
top left.
I love to read. I love true crime. Matter of fact, I just finished a true crime book and looking for more. So you will probably sell a few books here in the next.
Thank you very much. First Lady of Murder, available anywhere.
All right.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Well, Cathy, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We really had a great time. Lots of questions tonight from the Peanut Gallery. Misfit Nation really
they're
stepped up.
into the true crime.
Good. Well, my
They're
pleasure.
really into that.
And
So
thanks to all of
if-
them for putting up with me and listening. So I
Hey,
appreciate
if
it.
you ever want to come back, spend another hour talking, I'm sure we'll have 100 more questions for you because
Very
they
cool.
really seemed interested in this.
Cool. I'll come back. I'll
That'd
come
be
back
great.
for the Murders on the Beach story.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right. It's a deal.
Okay.
It is a deal. Well, hey, Misfit Nation, thank you for joining the Tuesday crew tonight. And just real quick before we take off, if you're out there, you're feeling alone, you're feeling the darkness, pick up that telephone, dial 988, take option 1 if you're a veteran. Somebody will get you some help. Tomorrow is too beautiful of a day for you not to be in it. So, and if you don't want to make that phone call, reach out, contact us here at the Misfit Nation, Stephen at themisfitnation.com, Jake at themisfitnation.com, or info at themisfitnation.com. Drop your name and phone number in there, and we will get back with you because, like I said, we want you around. We love you. And Stephen?
Check us out on Reach Across America Saturday night, 5 Eastern. I want to really thank everybody with their great questions tonight. It had a lot of interest in this, and we had questions coming in all over the place. And I'm sure we missed a couple, but Cathy's getting kicked out of where she is, and I thank her for doing this. So I just want to make sure I don't get her in any more trouble. If you want to give them a shout out where you are, so the audience knows they were based.
Purple Owl Cafe. You come to Julian, California. Julian is in the mountains of San Diego County. It's east. And the Purple Owl Cafe has the best food in town. So come on down.
See that?
They are also an espresso bar, and they have everything you need. So come on down.
Okay.
All right. Purple Owl Cafe.
Purple Owl
All
Cafe.
right. Well, thank you, Cathy. Thank you, Misfit Nation. And we'll catch you next Tuesday.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.